On June 26, 2007, the PDGA approved a new distance driver for Innova. That would be the infamous Destroyer. If you were to ask a disc golfer if they've ever thrown a Destroyer, I'd be willing to not only bet they have, but I would also double that and bet they didn't throw it over 400 feet. I'm JK Disc Golf from the Disc Golf World, and I'm going to go through the complete history of the most famous mold in all of disc golf. Innova describes the Destroyer as so: a very fast, stable, long-distance driver. This disc is much like a faster Wraith, but with a little more high and low-speed stability. Great disc for sidearm throwers and those with lots of power. Can handle headwinds and throws with off-axis torque. Not suggested for beginning players. In today's age, being a 12-speed, 5-glide, -1 turn, and 3-fade distance driver is not a rare sight. But at the time, this was revolutionary. Rumor even has it that Dave Dunapace knew that the Destroyer had something special to it, so he encouraged others to stash a few for safekeeping, and man was he correct. A month after being approved by the PDGA, the first batch of 354 Champion Destroyers were produced over a 2-day period as a test run for the mold in Champion plastic. The first 160 Destroyers were stamped with the classic Innova compass design and pre-released for the US Masters event, which took place on the weekend of September 14th, 2007. The second set of 162 Champion Destroyers were stamped with the SoCal Championships of that year. Additionally, 32 black Champion Destroyers were stamped with the 2008 Japan Open logo and taken to Worlds to be sold at the Fly Mart. After the initial pre-release discs, Innova stamped the next run of Destroyers with 3 stamps. These can be broken down into 3 categories: the football stamp, the Champion disc stamp, and the bar stamp. These were also released in limited quantities as candy fundraiser discs for tournaments around the country. The next iteration of the Destroyer was the prototype stamped Star Destroyer, which came out shortly after the pre-releases. These Destroyers were some of the most commonly collected Destroyers in the market, and they came in many different color and stamp combinations. The stock run of Star Destroyers after the proto stamp are commonly referred to as the PFN Star Destroyers or the pre-flight number. Before Innova would display their flight numbers on each disc, they would look like this. These would be the first run of Star Destroyers, as previously to this they were released exclusively in Champion plastic. If you know the story of the night shift, you know why. But if you don't know that story, leave a comment and we can make a video on it. However, these Destroyers are known to be some of the most understable Destroyers made in premium plastic, depending on the run. The pending on the back of the Destroyer has been a topic of debate for quite some time. Star D Destroyers seem to be the most understable of the PFNs, whereas S-DS are the most overstable. Star DS Destroyers are right in the middle of that spectrum of stability as well. In 2010, and after much success in the MPO field, Avery Jenkins would soon become the #1 player on Team Innova. Innova would celebrate AJ by displaying his name on their fan favorite Destroyer. These Destroyers would be referred to as 2-line Destroyers, as Avery Jenkins' 2009 PDGA World Champion would be displayed by 2 different lines on the Destroyer. In 2013, Innova decided to change the AJ Destroyer stamp. They broke Avery Jenkins' 2009 PDGA World Champion into 3 lines instead of 2, which would change the era of the 2-line Destroyer into the new 3-line. These Destroyers are considered some of the most overstable Star Destroyers up until this point, and AJ would do the disc justice. Some notable early Destroyers that were made in limited quantities were Team Innova member Josh Anthon's Tour Series Destroyer, released in April of 2013. Only 1,000 of these discs were sold in 2 different releases. David Wiggins Jr.'s Tour Series Destroyer was released in March of 2014. Les White designed the stamp for the Wiggins Destroyer. Again, 1,000 of these discs were sold in 2 different releases. Meanwhile, Avery Jenkins was gradually disappearing from the tour circuit. Innova recognized Paul's talent and decided to grant him the Star Destroyer, a disc previously associated with Avery Jenkins, as we know. The Macbeth Signature Series Star Destroyer was launched in September 2016, offering an infinite array of colors and stamps. These discs are widely regarded as some of the most stable Star Destroyers ever produced. Justification of the Signature Series is not really needed here, but just for context, in 2015, Macbeth would have a legendary Grand Slam season where he won every major along with 20 total wins and 0 times off the podium. This would result in my personal favorite destroyer ever. Innova changed its molding process for some discs, including the Star Destroyer. They started embossing or tooling the name of the disc on the underside of the flight plate. These destroyers are still very stable, but slightly less stable than the original Macbeth destroyers. In 2017, to commemorate the 10th anniversary of one of the most popular discs in the game, Innova releases a special stamped Star Destroyer. Needing a new name to replace Macbeth on the destroyer, Innova signed Ricky Wysocki in 2018, and the Saki Bite destroyer was soon released. The first of many different Wysocki destroyer variations that would soon be released over the year. After Ricky would leave his Innova contract early, that would leave the destroyer nameless once again. With plenty of top-level pros, it's Innova's time to decide which pro they're going to put on the destroyer next. And if Calvin keeps up what he's been doing of late, I wouldn't be surprised if we see his name next. But what do you guys think? The destroyer's much more than a great disc, but it set the path for so many other popular discs. Have you ever heard of the term destroyer-like, or this is the destroyer of this company? Every disc golfer knows what the destroyer is and what it has done for the sport. What disc do you want the complete history of next? Leave a comment down below, as well as drop a like, subscribe, and if you want to know what the hell Paul Macbeth has done recently, check out the video right here.